What does the music school even look like?
We have probably about 500 students.
How have your standards and boundaries grown as a teacher and now like an owner as well?
We've had to learn the hard way, like you mentioned. So half the time
Mm.
somebody says, I want piano lessons. And we're going to say, great, what's your availability like? And they're going to say, well, I can only do Tuesday or Thursday evenings. Well, then their choices are going to be my Tuesday or Thursday evening piano teachers. You know what I mean?
I started piano when I was 3 or 4. I personally didn't enjoy it.
If you're not that committed and just devoted to music, you're just not gonna.
What do you do on your own music?
Yeah, I am leading in how to run a music studio, right? So,
Yeah, this is going
yeah,
out to
man,
like more like not just my clients, but like for everyone that follows me. So
totally.
it's exciting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just here to highlight your story.
sure.
But yeah, I know we talked a little bit about like that. Yes, last time that we chatted, was there anything that you wanted to specifically highlight around your story
No, man,
that
I'm
we
happy
could?
to really just want to help. However it is that whatever it is that you're looking for, how I can share what we do.
Uh huh.
It's worked well for us. Hopefully, that will work, well for others. I mean, my heart is I want people, to be able to experience music and experience all the joys of music, and to be able to make it, the way that they want to make it, and to make it the best that they want to make it. And I mean, I manage. We have a lot of teachers. I tell all my teachers I want them to enjoy what they're doing and have fun.
Yeah.
Love the idea of coming into the studio and teaching, or if they're doing it from home, from wherever.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So like just for some context, like what does the music school even look like? Like in
Yeah.
terms of
So we have probably about 500 students. We have a local music academy here in Olympia, Washington, that serves probably about 350, 400 of those students. It's a bustling studio. If you were to come in from the hours of about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon until about 7 p.m. Monday through Fridays, pretty much every room would be filled. You know, every 30 minutes, in and out. Families, students, of all ages. We also have a satellite site in South Seattle area, which also has a lot of students and families there. Again, if you were same kind of time frame, it's probably really busy. But we also have a lot of homeschool families at both satellites. We have a lot of working adults that have flexible schedules that come in, take lessons throughout the day. We have a pretty good partnership with a local college that has university that has a music degree, but they don't have like applied music lessons. So they
mm,
send their students out into the economy to get private lessons elsewhere, and we've trained a lot of those students, which is a lot of fun. Then we have a sister school which operates out of our studio. That's sort of like under our umbrella. I audition and interview all those teachers, and they teach out of our studio pretty much like on the weekends and at the times that none of us are there.
mhm.
Um, and then we have a pretty significant virtual studio as well. People all over the world that study with us. We have teachers that are here,
Yeah.
and then we also have teachers that are kind of scattered throughout the country that are a part of our team but teach virtually for us.
Interesting. Interesting. So what do you offer with like everything so far? Is it mostly just private lessons? Like do you offer camps as well? Like what's the main
We
offering
have
for
not
you?
done any camps. We've had people ask us about them, and I would love to
Uh-huh.
do that. Haven't been able to get any off the ground yet. Honestly, we're so busy. Most of us teach back to back every
Okay.
30 minutes all day that in order to do a camp, we'd have to sort of shut down that for a
Mhm.
couple of weeks, and I don't know if we'd want to do that. I suppose we would if most of our students would want to do the camp. But we
Mhm.
teach mostly private lessons. We do have small group classes in piano, small group classes in drums. We have done we have a small group vocal class. We have done small group classes in songwriting and other instruments as well, but
Yeah.
probably small groups in piano and drums are the most common.
Oh, gotcha. It's always really like interesting hearing like how many different like sectors you have
Sure.
as well. When you're going from like what really interests me is like when you're going from the first location or the like the home base part to
Yep.
then expanding to a new location.
Totally.
What went into that decision making process? Like how did you know this was the right time to expand, and how did you even know what direction
Sure.
to go in as well with
Yeah,
scaling
that's a
it?
good question, man. We started, just like a lot of, I'm sure your clients and probably yourself. We started teaching out of our homes. My wife and I have been doing that for like 20 years.
Hmm.
And when we moved out here, we had already decided before we moved out here, that, which is about 10 years ago, that we wanted to develop something that was beyond just us. We knew
Oh,
that,
okay.
we could hold down a roster of however many students we felt comfortably doing. But, you get to a point where you can only teach so many students. So we knew that there was a huge need for more teachers, but we could only accomplish so much. So the first thing was, okay, what does it mean? What does it look like to bring on other teachers? That we don't want it to be the school of Sean, David, and Jenna. We want to be an organization. So then we had to kind of
Hmm.
determine, what is that school going to be about? Kind of what's our focus? What drives us? What are our values? How are we different from other schools? Had some really important discussions around that.
Yeah.
And when we first moved here, just like everywhere else, we started teaching out of our living room, and then we knew we needed a space where we could bring in other teachers to do more. Initially, we found a building that was, I think, owned by our public library, but it was just
Oh,
this small little building across the street from the library where they were letting various different community groups use it, and they were allowing us to use it for free, which was pretty cool. Um,
nice.
until we kind of outgrew that space, and then it was a process over a couple of years of, like, moving from space to space, until I really wanted to avoid having to lease a space as long as
Mm.
possible, um,
Hmm.
until eventually we got to the point where it was necessary, and then I thought
Yeah.
it's,
So it's like the bootstrapping method going up.
kind of, yeah,
Yeah, we got to be scrappy like that. I
right,
remember there's a public library in my neighborhood as well, and they have like that community space. And my dad
yeah,
has been was always telling me to like, hey, ask them if they can they can let you like host
yeah,
piano lessons in
yeah,
there. So that's super cool that you did that too.
yeah.
So with like going from the solopreneur teacher to having different teachers as well, like do you feel like your success with scaling in that way, did that come from a certain trait from you, like were you just a natural leader, were you natural, like were you good at managing those
That's a good
teachers,
question.
or did you have to learn into
I
that?
never, I didn't give a lot of thought to that, I think initially.
Uh-huh.
And like I'm sure a lot of the people you talk to, I've always just thought about the music and teaching music, and not thought a whole lot about the sort of organizational aspect. So it's
Uh-huh.
definitely something that we've had to learn along the way. Initially, I probably made the mistake, both my wife and I, of, we went to some of our friends that were really good people, that were great musicians, and we're like, hey, come teach for us, and they were like, yeah, sure. And a lot of them would even say this: they're great people and great musicians, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're fit to they're set up to teach, and they're called to teach. So kind of we learned the hard way of, kind of had to determine what are some essential characteristics we're looking for in the kind of people that are going to teach for us.
Yeah.
And for us, and everybody's different, but for us, we realized that the music is super important. Our teachers need to be highly capable musicians. At the same time, the way we've structured ourselves as an organization, um, we we mostly, most of the people that call us on a day-to-day basis are beginners. They're just getting started, or maybe they have some experience, but they're still, beginners. Um, and so what matters to us most is the people. We need people that our students and our families are just going to enjoy hanging out with. They're going to feel encouraged by, they're going to be inspired by, they're going to love showing up and seeing every week. We have plenty of teachers on our team that are insanely capable. So if for some reason, little Johnny was to progress so far that they really need to go to somebody more advanced, and their teacher, just can't take them to that next level. The cool thing is we're an organization. So the teacher can just text me and say, hey, Sean-David, I really need to get so and so with one of our master teachers, because he's ready to just go to the next level, and then we'll do it.
Yeah,
You know?
I love that. It's like it sounds like a very collaborative
Yeah,
type of environment with you and the teachers.
yeah, that's the goal.
So like for you personally, do you like finding the right teacher, what goes involved in that past just their level of pedagogy? Like, what do you
Yeah,
specifically look for
I mean,
that
for
works
me,
well with you?
honestly, before I ever even hear them play,
Mhm.
it's about just having some really important conversations with them.
Yeah.
We have kind of a process. It's probably about a 3 or 4 step process that begins with just like a 10 to 15 minute phone chat. I mean, like just talking with this person on the phone, and I tell them this: does this sound like the kind of person that we're going to click with and we're going to
Hmm.
want to, hang out with on a weekly basis? Because if not,
Yeah.
it's just probably not worth keeping wasting our time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like I feel that comes with a lot of strong boundaries and strong standards for yourself. So how do you feel like you've grown in that as you've like made mistakes, hired teachers that probably weren't the best fit, but like how have your standards and boundaries grown as a teacher and now like an owner as well?
Yeah, we've had to learn the hard way, like you mentioned, that there are just certain things that we're looking for in a teacher that we just cannot make any excuses about, right?
Mm.
Like it's not like, oh yeah, they're really good and we really like them, but I mean, if that's the case, then we just should not be talking to them, right? And one thing, honestly, is just kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of an energy or personality. And I hate to use that term, but private
No, I
lessons.
feel that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean, private.
relational thing.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't want to hang out with the person,
Yeah.
um, you know, if you're not that committed and just devoted to music, you're just not gonna.
Hmm.
So that's super important. And then, of course, as you know, I mean, um, they got to be they got to like sort of buy into what we're doing as a whole, right? The vision
Yeah.
of the entire
The vision.
organization. Because I tell people all the time, if they just want to, and this is great, but if they just want to teach and be like the school of, Sally, and that's what they want to do, and they want it to be their way, and all about their decisions and their ideas and their curriculum, then they should do that, right? And there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. But we have a particular sort of way about things that works and it's effective and people love it. And so that's what we do. And that's what we're going to do because it's what we do well. So
Yeah.
if I tell people, hey, this is what we do, if that doesn't sound like your thing, it's probably not a fit, and that's okay.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I like that. With like yeah, I know. I feel like with a lot of teachers who are on that cusp of wanting to transition to a new model, whether that's like expanding on their own or expanding with other teachers, like the vision part is the part that, because I feel like the vision is one of those things we take for granted on what we need to show more
Sure.
like outwardly, because like a lot of times the vision's in our own heads, but
Yeah.
when we're starting to bring other people along who may have a different worldview on things,
Mm-hmm.
um like I feel like it's always important to share that vision outwardly, in our marketing and in our conversation with
Yeah,
teachers and students as well.
definitely.
Because I remember you mentioned like the values that you show with your students. I'm kind of curious now for your school, what are those main values that you like market out there or uphold in your school? Like how do
Yeah,
you attract students with the same values as you, the same families?
totally. Well, they're all. I mean, obviously, our people that come to us that we teach are going to come from. I mean, especially in Olympia, Washington, we have people that come to us from all different kind of walks of life and
Yeah.
worldviews and everything. So the values that we have as an academy, which are of course stated on our website, are, I would say, universal values that hopefully everyone can agree on. And the first one is just people, that we value people, and that means that while the music's important, and while we want to really teach well and all those kind of things, what matters most is the person. Like,
Hmm.
and again, that comes back down to that sort of character and personality thing. Is whoever is sitting at the piano, they need to know that we care about them, that we're excited that they're there, and
Hmm.
just as excited that they're there as anybody else that would be seated in that seat, whether or not they've practiced, whether or not they know all their major scales, whether or not they can read really well, or whether they can swing really well, because that's what matters most. Because of course, if we don't care about the people, the music is not going to happen because there ain't going to be nobody there. Um,
Yeah.
we one of the things that is really important for us that we've always stated from the very beginning also is community.
Oh, yeah,
Music,
yeah, yeah.
I would argue, is largely a community-based art that was, invented for the purpose of community to be shared, with others, to be played with others and for others. And so we really try to foster a community environment in our studio.
Yeah.
Um, and we want people like talking to other families and things like that, and getting to know each other. I think a couple of my students from one of my piano labs that I had last night, I think right after the class, they were like having a pizza party together, which is awesome, right? So, yeah, and we have like a lot of our group classes where some of those students have been playing together for years, which is super amazing. Um,
Uh-huh.
we have regular community events, and we don't call them recitals. And this is part of because one of our things that we talk about in our values is, and this is just us, not everybody holds to this, and that's fine. Um,
Mhm.
we we value what we call presentation over performance. And what that means
Yeah.
is we have a lot of students that, sure, man, they want to be really amazing musicians and they want to play with excellence, and they want to play, formal recitals and all that kind of stuff. And that's awesome. But not everybody, wants, some people just want to play for fun, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Um, so we don't want anybody stressed out about playing, at an event. So we like to call our events presentations instead of performances. And so we like to say, we're just here presenting our music where we are. Everyone's at a different place on their journey, for the community. And it's all going to be amazing, but none of it's going to be perfect. And some people are going to be, playing hot cross buns, and some people are going to be playing, Beethoven, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So those are some of our core values. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I love that because for me, a little bit about me is that like I started piano when I was I think like 3 or 4, but I personally didn't enjoy it. It felt like a chore to me. It felt like an obligation. And it wasn't until I joined high school and joined the marching band there was when I started really liking music.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because of the music, but it was because of that aspect of community. And I
Sure.
would make friends through this activity that we'd share together. And that's when I started like experiencing what like the
Yeah.
purpose of music is. So
Yeah.
so like with someone so like when I started doing like piano, when I started teaching piano lessons in college and things like that, I would add in these little like student showcases
Yeah.
or um or I would start adding in those group classes with the intention of community as well.
Yeah.
um for like a teacher that is wanting to add that aspect of community,
Mhm.
if they don't have one yet, what do you feel like is a good first step? What do you feel like um are things that they could do to start adding, just to start having that aspect of community in their
Yeah,
studio?
I mean, I think a huge thing is just getting together, getting to some groups together for sure. If you're
Uh-huh.
just teaching private lessons, and that doesn't necessarily have to mean group instruction or group class. I mean, I think group instruction is really important, and I think a lot of people, if they have the capability of doing it and they can do it well and they've got the energy for it, they should do it. But you can put together groups just for like an individual event or something as well, and we'll do this. So
Yeah.
like, I have several saxophone students, and we don't have a sax ensemble or a sax quartet as a class because honestly, while I would love to do it, I just don't have the time to do it. Um,
Hmm.
but what we will do is every once in a while, a couple times a year, I'll give all these sax students that are capable, some music to like say a sax quartet, and we'll work on it in individual private lessons, and they'll practice it at home. And then we'll get together once or twice before an event, we'll run it, and we'll play the saxophone quartet at the recital, and we'll have a great time.
Nice,
And
nice.
those times that we have those rehearsals are a unique and special time to get 4 or 5 students together that are not normally together and have
Hmm.
that kind of opportunity. You can do the
Yeah.
same thing with your teachers, and we've done this, where maybe the teachers and the faculty have all put together a special piece of music that we're going to
Oh,
do for a
okay.
recital.
Uh,
That can be a lot of fun as well. For
yeah.
piano, there's a lot of great curriculum out there for group curriculum, and there's also a lot of ensemble music as well. So again, even if you're not doing group classes, you can put together those groups.
Yeah, for sure. Even like duets or something like
Yeah,
that. It's like very, very simple.
definitely. You can also
Yeah.
get, we've done this where we've had some of our really capable piano students playing, doing accompaniment. So for some of our
Oh,
vocalists or for some of our
uh-huh.
other students, that can be a lot of fun too. And of course, learning how to do an accompaniment is a craft in itself.
For sure, for sure. What do you do with like musician wise? Like what do you do on your own music, like
Yeah,
personally?
I don't do a whole lot of live playing today out in the clubs and that kind of stuff. I got a
You
family,
used to
and
though?
I enjoy my evening time. You know,
Uh-huh.
Obviously I play a lot with my students. I do a lot of duets with my wind students, sax and trumpet.
Yeah.
My wife, this is her setup. My wife is a producer. She does a lot of writing and production, mostly writing music for sync licensing,
Oh,
and
nice.
most of her friends do not play wind instruments. So a
Mhm.
lot of the times, her friends are sending her tracks and saying, "Hey, Sean David, can you lay down horn parts on these and things like that?" So I do a bit of that today,
Uh-huh.
which is fun. And someday when my kids are a little bit older, there's a local jazz band here
Uh-huh.
that's pretty good. I might go do some playing in that or something like that. But I'm pretty happy. I mean, for me, anyways, and that's one of the things I tell my students all the time. I love playing and I love playing music, but I've never personally felt like the need to be out on stage playing or playing out in the town for my own sort
Mhm.
of validation. I'm happy playing on my own. I'm happy doing some recording and writing, and I just love teaching. So
That's cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I was the same. I was the same exact way in college too, where it's like I never really found a desire to be a performance major or anything like that. Um, I really enjoyed like the main reason why I became a music ed major in the first place was like to give other people that opportunity that experience that I
yeah,
had in band, and
yeah,
especially for those students that felt like music was an obligation and turning that into like a want for them, like a desire.
yeah,
So that like so that was like the main reason why I became a music ed major. So performing was almost like a was kind of like a side thing for me.
sure,
Up until like last year, and then I might have been telling you about it. Like last year, I was
yeah,
like I focused a lot on being a music producer, and
yeah,
I'm more wanting to perform like with DJing and being able to share and curate music for other
yeah, man,
people. So that's been like a big emphasis for me as well, along with the teaching. So
yeah, that's cool.
it's been a journey.
Yeah,
Yeah. So as you're like as you were scaling up the music school and going from like a single location to like multiple
hmm
locations to multiple teachers to now like hundreds of students,
hmm
how do you feel that your own how would you describe your own personal transformation on like the leadership skills that you had to gain
yeah.
uh or the like the pedagogy skills that you had to gain? um how would you describe that for
Yeah.
yourself?
Well, man, from like on a personal level, and I hate to use these terms because I don't even like them, but as sort of an administrator, as a leader of an organization, that's been pretty big for me because, like I said, I never gave that a whole lot of thought. Just I never planned on doing that. I never
Hmm.
set out to do that. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I want to be a boss. It's just obviously somebody's got to lead things. So
Yeah.
and because this was sort of the vision that we had, it made sense that I'm doing it. Um, I have tried to think really. I like to think of my role with the teachers that we bring on the team, and not just the teachers, but the other staff that we have as an organization. Um, Really as sort of a facilitator of this collaborative organization, right? Like you
Hmm.
mentioned the collaboration thing before. I work very hard to try to set the standard for us to be a team and not just a
Hmm.
bunch of individuals. And so I
Hmm.
try to help everybody sort of, understand what that means and sort of clue into each other. And hey, let's talk to Daniel because he's really good at this. And how is so and so doing this? Um, and so I try to facilitate that well, and then also to be available um, as a sort of mentor to those that are looking for that. Not everybody, is, and that's okay. But I'm always telling people, oh, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. If I can help you in terms of like your scheduling, and
Hmm.
how to sort of, get yourself into a healthy rhythm where you're able to teach and practice and rest and be well rested. And I talk to my teachers a lot about that. Like we bring them on the team is, hey, I want you to teach as much as you want to teach, but I also want you to be really well rested, have lots of free time with your family, be able to play, all those kinds of things. So, um, because to me, again, all back to that whole people thing is, man, if somebody's not having a good time, they're also not going to do great work, and people aren't going to enjoy hanging with them.
Yeah,
From
very
a
true.
pedagogical perspective, and teaching as a whole, I'm always trying, um, you know, while we do have some sort of uh, benchmarks and some sort of like standards that we think are just important about our approach as a whole, we also realize that every student is different. So I'm always trying to be careful to pay attention to a student and see, how they learn and if they learn a little bit differently, and also in conversations with parents, how we can sort of better tune into that student's individual needs and desires. So, for example, just
Hmm.
the other day, I was talking to a student's parent, and a parent was mentioning to me how much this student really, really likes to play by ear. And the parent is a pretty learned musician, and they know that we take reading music very seriously and everything like that. So they were almost like, I don't know, it almost seemed like they were apprehensive to say that. And I said, no, I appreciate you saying that, because we want our students to learn how to play by ear just as much as we want them to read. Um, Not every student wants to do that, but if they want to do that, we're definitely going to find a way to plug that into our lessons in a way that's
Yeah.
meaningful and important. And so that tells me, okay, I need to consider more how we're going to do some by ear approaches with that particular student,
Yeah.
and in a way that's really going to challenge them because they're really good at it. So
100%. hundred
yeah,
percent. Have you have you read the book The Creative Act before?
no, I will
It's a
check it
book
out.
by Rick Rubin. I
Okay,
highly recommend it.
okay,
But it's all about like the creative process, and it's helped me
yeah,
personally a lot because of like me getting into music production, and Rick Rubin's a music producer as well. So
cool,
it directly applies
yeah,
to music production, but everything that he talks about in there applies to creativity in general as well. And one of the big lessons for me seeing has been treating business as the same way as I treat my art and my music. So like being detached from the outcome, making sure that like I practice what I preach, making sure that my business is a self reflection of me and my values as well. I'm
yeah,
I'm kind
yeah.
of curious how you stick your own creative process into growing the music school now. Is there any like instances where you got to insert your own creativity, or have
I
that like
mean, I'm sure it has,
uh-huh.
and I hope also the influences of a lot of our other teachers as well. And I have, I've got some really great team members that are really good at so many different things that I'm always asking them, hey, how would you approach this? And I love it when they do that. One of the things that we have done, which I have a lot of fun with, is um, every semester, because we are semester based, we sort of have a different focus
Hmm.
in what we do in our presentations. Um, and the whole intent of that is to expose our students to a broad variety of music, which has been a lot of fun for me. Um, so so personally, I'm always asking my other teachers, "Hey, what do you guys want to focus on next?" And if they've got great ideas, I love to do it. But a lot of times they're like, "Hey, whatever you want to do, Sean-David." So when it's me, honestly, full disclosure, oftentimes I will choose a focus that I know personally I need to work on.
Oh,
Right?
nice,
Because
nice.
that means it's going to make me practice more in that area. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So
Like what's
yeah.
an example of that?
So for example, I happen to be I'm Irish. I'm Scotch Irish,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not, you know, I don't have a huge understanding of my history musically and all that kind of stuff. So like a couple of years ago, I was, you know what, this summer we're gonna do Celtic music, and
Oh.
yeah, and it was really cool. We focused the whole summer on learning Celtic music, and maybe it was spring, but yeah, and it was really cool. Got to study the gapped modes and some different musical elements that I'd never really spent time thinking about before. So
Nice,
yeah,
nice. That sounds fun. Like
yeah,
I feel like the more like we have fun with our teaching, like our students do as well, rather than
absolutely,
going through the same old thing.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So with going from like again kind of going from that the single teacher
Hmm.
just like starting by yourself
Yep.
to now being able to like fill up like a bunch of teachers rosters, how has like the student acquisition changed over the years as you were growing? Did it have to change? Did it come from like the same place? Like how was
No,
getting students
it
to
hasn't really changed much, to be honest.
Mhm.
When we first started here in this town,
Yeah.
we came here intentionally with a plan to first fill what we thought was a huge need in this community to a specific sort of demographic group of people that don't normally get quality music lessons and music instruction.
Hmm.
So the first thing we did was start to get to know the people in that community and make ourselves available and offer, hey, if you guys want somebody to come and just talk about music, if you want somebody to come and bring instruments, whatever, we're here. We do that. And we did that. Got to know the community very well, and word of mouth was really what took off there, and still does. Um, and we still have the same sort of way of enrollment that we've always had, which is, I mean, some people, there's a lot of Facebook, today, but still, most people just go to the website and hit the enrollment button.
Hmm.
I mean, originally, up until fairly recently, um, I did all that myself. Um,
Oh, okay. Now you've
um,
handed it off.
yeah, fairly recently, I got some virtual
Nice.
assistants that handle that. And
Nice.
I mean, I call them virtual assistants, but they're both local. I mean, one of them is a mom of some of our students, and the other one is a mom of a former student. So they both know,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
they know who we are and what we do well, so it makes sense to them.
Hmm.
And now that they're doing it, that frees me up to not have to do it. And honestly, they can do it better and faster because I'm just so busy. So, but yeah, and as far as having multiple teachers, it's interesting because a lot of times I've had people ask me like, oh, well, how do you make sure that so and so is getting students and so and so and it's fair and whatnot.
Hmm.
At least the way we've structured what we do, that's not really an issue because first of all, everybody has different like sort of strengths and weaknesses and areas of passion. And so if somebody calls and says, like, oh, I really want to learn, jazz guitar. Well, I've got lots of guitar teachers, but I've got one that's really a jazz guy, right?
Mm, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a no-brainer. Like he's going to be the one we're going to try to book them with if we can. And personally, I wouldn't have multiple jazz, like real jazz focused guys, because I would want him to be the main guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The other thing is 90% of the time people are so busy today that it's going to boil down to the time slot and the day that works best with them. So half the time
Mm.
somebody says, I want piano lessons. And we're going to say, great, what's your availability like? And they're going to say, well, I can only do Tuesday or Thursday evenings. Well, then their choices are going to be my Tuesday or Thursday evening piano teachers. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it generally generally that works out pretty well like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next with the music school? Anything? Any plans that you got?
I mean, right now we're really focused on continuing to try to bring the one in South Seattle is fairly new location,
Okay.
and
Like how new? How recent?
I think we started there right after COVID, like when
Okay.
things opened up after COVID.
Yeah.
So that's like a couple years, right? And it's a smaller community. I mean, I don't think it's smaller geographically, but it feels smaller. And it just seems like it's taking a little bit longer and a little bit harder to get the word out there.
Hmm.
So, we're really constantly just trying to do more in that community to be more known so that people know who we are. And because I know there's people out there that need what we do. And I'm not, honestly, we never have to sell anything because when people call us, they already want music lessons, right?
Yeah.
So We just have to get out there more and let people know
Mhm.
who we are. That's a big part of it. One of my big passions is student teachers. I
Uh-huh.
love bringing on students teachers. We have grown over the years, at least 3 or 4 student teachers that have come to us that have began learning with us as students that have later
Oh, sweet.
become student teachers for us. And we love that because I love homegrown students because they know how we teach, they know
Mhm.
how we do things. They're really good because they've been with us for a long time, and they're young and energetic, and people love studying with them. So we have one student teacher now who's doing amazing work for us. We actually have a phase 2 audition and interview tomorrow with a potential associate faculty member who just graduated from high school. So she would
Mhm.
be similar to a student teacher, but she would be sort of coming on, under our wing. We'd be helping develop her and train her and things like that. And I think today, with the cost of college, which is through the roof, I think that's
Mhm.
huge because
Yeah.
we can bring people on the team like that would love to go to college but don't want to spend all that money, and they can learn everything and anything that they would need to learn, really, um,
Yeah.
right under our roof as they're teaching and making a living. So
That's super cool.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a huge need too, because when I first started this coaching business, actually, it was while I was teaching piano lessons, but it started first as coaching college students to on how to like start their own music studio
Sure.
and get students so that they could pay for college, because that
Sure.
was like what I was doing.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But then I realized that a lot of college students don't really have that much money.
Right.
They need to make money, so
Right.
so
Or
it's good. It's
time,
good.
right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. 'Cause that was the same problem that I was facing too. It's like I was capped with my piano studio because um, I was deep in that music major life where you're going from class to rehearsal to
Right.
your own practice time. And then for me, it was now running to my car and having to travel and drive to a piano student's house. So,
Oh, you
um,
were going to people's homes?
yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
tough. That's tough.
That's tough. Yeah.
I've never done it.
Yeah, I know. I've learned the experience. So I know I've learned the mistakes there.
I'm glad
But that
there's
was
people
my
that
life.
do it,
So
but I'm glad it's not me.
yeah, but what I was getting to is I'm glad you're providing that, because if I had that opportunity, I probably would have learned a lot of my pedagogy
Sure.
learning under another teacher privately, and
Right.
that would have given me the same skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you provide that.
Yeah.
What I was kind of curious too is like now when you're thinking about what the vision, expanding the vision for the music
Mhm.
school, expanding the vision for yourself, like what do you do to work on that skill of leadership, that skill of expanding your vision, your belief?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, a lot of it is looking at the context that we're in, the community that we're in, and what we currently do,
Hmm.
and trying to find needs that are out there that are not being filled in our area, and considering that as not just, it's never about like, oh, let's just do this because this sounds cool. It's is there any, the funny thing is like the group piano thing, which is one of our most popular classes now, and we have so many group piano students that come through our doors, and they do so well. When I first started doing that, my wife was like, you're crazy. That's ridiculous. Piano's a private thing. We shouldn't do it, in group. But people were asking for it, and that's why we
Okay,
did it.
okay.
We we have specifically brought on teachers and that to teach specific like sort of concepts or approaches because we knew there was a need for it, even though and especially even if it wasn't something that we were personally into. So for example, I'm not nothing against hip hop or rap music. It's just not me. I don't know it very well. It's not that I don't like it, but I know there's a huge need for it, and a lot of people really love that. And so years ago, we brought on a guy who was teaching rap, and he was doing amazing.
Oh.
And I wish he was still on the board. He got a record contract, and so he left us. So
Uh-huh.
sucks for us. Great for him.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, but it was amazing because we knew there
Hmm.
was a need for that. And if I were to find somebody else that does that, that's a fit with who we are again, I'd gladly bring them back on the team because
Hmm.
people dig that. It's like music production. My wife is an amazing, music producer, and we have a brand new teacher who also um, is. I think he's just finishing up his master's from Berklee College of Music, and Berklee has sort of taken over our team, which is exciting for us because my wife and I went to Berklee, and we have a handful of our teachers that all went to Berklee.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge need for music production instruction, and yet not a lot of it in like a sort of a local environment. So we're excited to be able to offer that, and just more and more programming like that for things that aren't out there but people need.
Yeah. So it's always looking for like what is the need
Yeah,
at this time. Nice.
yeah,
Um, yeah, first off, I just want to say appreciate you
yeah, man.
for sharing all this. I guess last question, if you were to it's the age old one, if you were to tell younger Sean David, give him some advice, what would that be?
Oh man, um, that's a good question. I would probably say um, be less afraid to read and study and learn a bit about leadership and organization.
Hmm.
um, it's just worth it because I think that I think that probably especially for creatives, um, if we really want to be creative and we want to sort of you know see our creativity come to fruition and be built and happen, um, we're so focused on that, which is amazing, but most of us don't really want to spend the time or do the thinking about all the logistics and the administrative side of things necessary to make that stuff happen. um,
Hmm.
like and a lot of those things probably could happen better and maybe faster and more efficiently if we did it. You know what I mean? Like my
Yeah.
virtual assistants that I just brought on like in November, I should have brought them on 2 years ago, man. Yeah,
We learn.
we
But
did.
yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
It was a it was a true pleasure
yeah,
getting to like chat with you, man,
yeah.
and
Likewise,
getting to
man.
know you. And I love talking about leadership and belief and vision. So I'm glad you gave us the
Yeah,
opportunity to talk about that and for sharing your story.
likewise. Yeah,
Yeah. So what's the best place? Like, if anyone is watching this, like, what's the best place to reach out to you and learn more about the music school as
sure.
well?
Well, the Tuned In Academy is online at thetunedinacademy.org. Our sister school is also online at musicfirst.org. It's music1st.org. And we have Facebook pages for both the Academy and Music First. The Academy has a Facebook page for Olympia, which is our home
Uh-huh.
base, and we also have one for Burien, which is our South Seattle base. But yeah,
Sweet. Yeah, I'll get all the links and
cool.
put it in like the description.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
Well, sweet. Yeah. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can answer any questions. Feel free to reach out to Sean David.
Yeah.
He can probably answer a lot of questions too. I know you're a busy dude, but just want to say thank you again
Yeah.
so
Thanks for
much.
having me.
Of
Yeah.
course.